All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are, everyone. I see that we already have quite a few attendees coming in. So welcome to our community development activity for November. This is our first activity off of the back of the annual forum that happened last month. And I hope some of you were able to join us back then. And we're very happy to see you now. We're just going to wait. Oh my gosh, we jumped a large number of attendees. We have a very excited group of people. So that's wonderful news. So we're just going to wait a few seconds, moments, just to make sure everybody has come in. And then we'll get started. So while we wait, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Let us know who you are, where you are, and just welcome our speakers who are here today to present on behalf of Crossref. Hello, Dr. Rabab. Nice to see you. I hope you're doing well in Bahrain. I hope everything has been smooth since your return. And hello from Jordan. Hello from Oman. Hello from Egypt. We have quite a nice array of attendees from all over the world and all over the region more specifically. So welcome, everyone. Okay, so I think we can get started. So thank you again for joining us today. This event is being held in partnership with Crossref as part of our community development activities series. And they're going to be discussing how metadata makes open research better through their own research. So if we can move over to the next slide. Great. So right before we get started, just some quick housekeeping. I'm sure you're all very familiar with Zoom by now, so I won't get too into the details, but just so you know, the Zoom window is movable and you can minimize it and still be a part of the conversation. So if you want to be listening in while also, like running through your morning emails, making some coffee, whatever it is, please feel free. If you feel like we are speaking too fast, please do raise your hand using that feature, and it'll give me or the speakers the prompt to slow down. If you're having any technical issues, if you want to share insights, anything along those lines, please feel free to use the chat. However, if you have any content-related questions, so questions that are directed to the speakers about the topic of discussion, please do use the Q&A box. I will do my best to monitor both the chat and the Q&A because I know that no matter how many times I say it, people will still post their questions in the chat. But please do, just to ensure that we don't miss anyone's questions that might have been sitting in the chat somewhere. Next slide, please. So just a quick summary of who we are. So FORUM stands for the Forum for Open Research in MENA, and we are a nonprofit membership organization supporting the advancement of open science policies and practices in research communities and institutions across the Arab region. And we do that through many prongs of work and philosophies. We aim to support the advancement of open science ecosystems in higher education institutions across the Arab world. We are working constantly to create accessible and localized resources in the Arabic language and using left to right modalities just to make it as accessible as possible. We are encouraging collaboration. So this is where the community development activities falls in line. We encourage collaboration between community partners and cooperation between our members and partners forum. That's both international and national. Yes, and as I mentioned, we champion the development of right-to-left, functionality in key open source and open science technological solutions. And what we do in a more specific perspective, if you can go on to the next slide, please. is that we have three prongs. So we host the annual forum that I mentioned has just happened in October, where we bring about all of our partners and our community to have a kind of holistic conversation about open science, open research, and everything that has been happening across the region in that capacity. We host the CDAs, so an example being what's happening today. They're free, they're online, and they aim to help facilitate the building blocks of open science in the region. And we develop resources that I mentioned are in Arabic, right to left functionality, et cetera, et cetera. Next slide, please. Another thing is, we just as a quick announcement, want to let you all know, in case you aren't already on it, that during the annual forum, we launched the Slack community for Forum. And currently, the only way to access this is to essentially let us know that you want to join, because it's invite only, very exclusive for now. And the goal of this is really to enhance community, enhance collaboration, enhance conversation and discussion amongst our members, and really start to work towards making Forum a community-based organization in every sense of the word, not just as a buzzword. We really want people to feel like they are part of our community, a part of our advancement, a part of our development and our research, and giving us insights into what they think would be best implemented to serve the open research community in the region. So if you'd like to join our Forum Slack community and aren't already on here, just send us an email. We'll add you to our mailing list and to the Forum Slack channel so that you can be part of our team. All right. So moving on to the main event. Today, as I mentioned, we're hosting an array of Crossref. I believe they're all Crossref ambassadors, but I may be mistaken, but they're all speaking on behalf of Crossref today. And they're going to be discussing the topic of metadata and how metadata can improve open research. So our first speaker, who I'm going to be asking to turn on his camera and microphone now, is Johansen Obanda. Johansen Obanda is a community engagement manager at Crossref. He works with Crossref ambassadors to effectively engage their communities and support Crossref's outreach initiatives. And Johansen is passionate about building inclusive research ecosystems where researchers across the world can easily access scientific knowledge. So over to you, Johansen.
Thank you very much, Nahil. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I will, in this session, cover about the basics of Crossref, including who we are and what we do. I'm pleased to be joined by my colleague, Jeannie, and also, two of our ambassadors have joined, Dr. Salwan Abdulatif from Iraq, and also Dr. Ahmed Mustafa, hoping that we also are joined by Yonis Said from Algeria. Great. So I'm just going to go through what we will cover today. We're going to cover the research nexus, the value and use of metadata for content discovery. We'll also look at relationships and data citations. We'll cover our research initiatives, the publishers, learning and exchange community, and finally, the principles of open scholarly infrastructure. So I'm gonna share my screen. Great. I hope that you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it. Go ahead, Johansen.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Yeah, after after all of this, we'll also end with a Q&A session to address any questions that you have. And just like Nahil says, if you have a question during the presentation, please write in the Q&A box, not in the chat, so that we keep a track and answer it. And also continue to say hello in the chat. So right now I'm gonna kick us off with a quick overview of who and what Crossref is and does. Crossref was founded in the year 2000 by a few scientific societies and publishers, mostly in the US and Western Europe, seeking an efficient way to link references in journal articles. And one solution was using DOIs. And 23 years later, today, Crossref membership now comprises of about 35% publishers, with the largest group, about 40% of them, self-identifying as research institutions and universities. The other 25% is made up of combinations of founders who started joining to record grants, use of facilities, and other support, alongside hundreds of museums, repositories, government organizations, conference providers, standard bodies, individual scholars, and news outlets. For this reason, we have moved away from the word publishers to focus on members, as many of our members do not self-associate as publishers, as publishing is not their primary function. We are a policy-compliant membership organization that is principles of open scholarly infrastructure, which my colleague Jeannie will be talking about at the towards the end of this webinar. And we're also a membership organization, open to organizations that produce research output. We currently have over 19,000 members from over 150 countries. And we are facilitating an average of 1.1 billion DOI resolutions or clicks of a DOI link every month. And our APIs serve over 1 billion queries of our metadata every month. We also work with third-party services or service providers and metadata users who do not contribute to our metadata store, but make use of it via our API and such interfaces for a variety of different purposes. All of our metadata is openly available. And our members have registered over 150 million records of different content types. And all of our items contain a range of metadata, which vary based on the content type. However, regardless of the type of content, the richer and more comprehensive the metadata is, the more value there is for our members and the community. And these metadata forms the basis for what we call the research nexus that our ambassador, Dr. Salwan, is going to talk about in the next slide. Over to you, Dr. Salwan.
All right, so just a quick introduction for Dr. Salwan. So Dr. Salwan currently works as Scientific Research Director at the University of Anbar. He specializes in animal behavior and endocrinology research, I apologize. And he is the member of the advisory board of QS World University Rankings. He also works as a director of the Academic Journals Unit and managing editor of the Anbar Journal of Agricultural Sciences, and is a member of the Scientific Sobriety Committee for Scientific Research and Publications. He's authored more than 44 scientific papers in his fields of specialization, and he supports journals to join Crossref and expects, as an ambassador, to improve the dissemination of knowledge and teaching on how to explore and use the tools and services offered by Crossref. So Dr. Salwan, if I can ask you to turn on your camera, if that's okay. I'm not sure if that's appropriate for your internet connection, but otherwise, please go ahead.
Okay, how are you? Hi, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Obanda. Thank you, Naila. Thank you for everyone for this webinar. I'm Dr. Salwan from University of Anbar. I'm sorry for I'm here in Iraq. The network is so bad today. I don't know, so maybe I will late for this webinar. Generally, the research nexus. What means research nexus? You can we are aiming for number one, bring together
It seems we've lost Dr. Salwan just as he was saying that the internet connection isn't best. So perhaps while we wait for him to rejoin, Johansson, if you can just jump on and take over for the moment.
Great. Yeah, great. Thank you. I'll just carry on with Dr. Salwan's presentation. Yeah, so the Crossroads Research Nexus vision aims to create a rich and interconnected network of relationships connecting research organizations, people, research objects, and actions, a scholarly record that the global community can build on forever for the benefit of society. And comprehensive metadata and relationships between research entities support research integrity, reproducibility, reporting, and discoverability. Metadata is the thread that is woven to produce such a network. Metadata is communication, and it describes and identifies an item. It defines relationships. It sets parameters for the range of actions something can engage in. As the things we read, write, create, use, move around, and engage with become more digital, metadata becomes more important, because without metadata, all that movement, interaction, and discovery could not happen. And this is a quote from Julian Schneider on the Metadata 2020 blog, 2017. And so what kind of metadata are we talking about? When registering content with us, members supply us with a wide range of metadata, and basic metadata include things like titles, authors, publication dates, issue numbers, ISSN, ISBN, basically anything that describes the content that you're registering. And we collect data about the items that are being registered, and this can include a reference list, funding data, ORCID IDs, license data, clinical trial information, and more, and also relationships between the items. And other information as well, for example, information on errata, retractions, and updates can also be registered through our Crossmark service. The metadata that is sent varies based on the type of content that is being registered. And we always ask our members that they send as much metadata as possible, and that it is accurate and clean, because the more comprehensive the metadata is, the more likely that that content will be discovered and disseminated. However, this is only true if that metadata is accurate. Our members don't have to worry about including information that they're not sure about. The records can always be updated later, and we strongly encourage that our members keep on adding or improve their metadata as they find more information about it. And so why metadata? And now I'm going to talk about what metadata does. Metadata does a lot, and I'm going to talk about 4 things. We've heard about discoverability. The more metadata you include about a piece of content, the easier it is for others to search and discover. From researchers to organizations who use cross-site metadata to build their own tools and services for the research community. A few examples of how is like our books metadata project, which has shown that books with basic metadata are more likely to come up in searches in Google Scholar. Journal articles with deposited references seem to be cited more than those without. Reproducibility is also critical. Researchers need to be able to build upon each other's work. Verifying and reproducing the results from earlier work is helped by metadata such as links to funding protocols, research data, and peer review reports. And these also help to create a complete picture of our work. In addition, metadata also helps to determine the integrity of the research. Who funded the research? What are the affiliations of the authors? And could there be conflicts of interest? And reporting and assessment may be carried out by a variety of organizations. including universities and funders, in order to show the accountability and benefit of public investment, provide benchmarking information, demonstrate compliance with funder mandates, and decide what research to fund, including metadata such as affiliations, RR identifiers, ORCID, funding and grant information, license URL, peer review reports, and links to preprints, and help or also help with this. Great. And next, I'll just move over to talking about relationships and data citation. I'm not sure if we're joined by Jonas Said today. If not,
I do not see him, so please go ahead. But Dr. Salwan has rejoined, just to let you know.
Oh, great. Yeah, maybe if Dr. Salwan would like to add something or something more about Research Nexus that might have left out. You're welcome back, Dr. Salwan.
So sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for this problem. I don't know what's happened in the internet and in my country. I'm so sorry. I don't know. You are finished you are finished, or what I do? Sorry.
Great, no problem. I think we can continue to have the discussion hopefully after during the Q&A about Research Nexus. Yeah, but thank you, and so sorry about that.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah. So about relationships and data citations, at the center of the nexus, or what I just talked about, the Research Nexus, are articles, books, preprints, but also data, software, posters. We also include people, authors, translators, editors, and organizations, funders, publishers, research institutions. Around the outsiders are actions that happen to the items and ways in which they relate to each other. And supported by open science initiatives, many more items are now available and linkable. To build the Research Nexus, we need good quality metadata. Our members are the most important source, and we look for links between deposited metadata records, and where there are important sources in the community, we collect those. For example, through event data, we gather Wikipedia citations. We also work closely with data sites to identify data citations, and the Retraction Watch has more information than us about retractions, and we have recently purchased the database in order to make it open and supplement our data. So where to find relationships? We deliver relationships through endpoints, and there are three sources, you'd say, like where to find relationships, or relationship metadata, references in the reference list, and also event APIs. However, the format is different in different endpoints, because so as we deliver the relationships through endpoints, and the format is different in different endpoints. The information retrieves depends on the use case, but it isn't possible to find all relationships captured by the Research Nexus in one place here. And maybe Jeannie, you would also share some insights to this, like data citations and relationships, if you have some.
Sure. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, so we've had event data as a separate API for a few years, and we took different sources, which was even at the time quite new. So we've always had sources from our own members, but with event data, we were getting sources from social media, from news feeds, and from Wikipedia, and some other sources that wouldn't necessarily be Crossref members, public sources. yeah, this whole effort, as I think Amanda was saying, is designed to put all of those types of sources in the same API, so alongside all of our members' metadata as well. And we would always be very clear about the source of the information. And yeah, this is a great example. The first thing we're focusing on is the data site source. So it's just really important to link data with publications, especially for the reproducibility use case that Abanda mentioned. So I don't know if I'm repeating what you said, Abanda, but just endorsing it as well.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, and so I just want to build on that by saying, like, we're building a new endpoint that will contain all relationships you know about to support the research nexus. Having one endpoint makes things simpler for users. And here's an example query and some example output. The output is simple, like subject identifier, object identifier, relationships type. Yeah, I'm gonna use my pointer, and then relationship sites, like how they are linked. For example, this, like, it is supplement to and to get more data, to get more metadata, like title authors, you use the works endpoint, and the event data API will be deprecated in early January 2024, and users should switch to the relationships endpoint. Great. More on data citations. So data citations, like relationships between data site and data site DOIs and cross-site DOIs. I think that's also what Jenny was talking about, like, and also how also enable data citations, like some are from cross-site members and others from data site members, and support initiatives for open science and transparency in research and also connect center software and other related outputs. So our sources of data that we make available for members to be able now to carry out data citations from all these main sources. Like, I think data site DOIs are the main, and also cross-site the data or the references also provided by our cross-site members are also like the main sources of data, right? Great. And I think next I want to talk about basically our audience today might be using some infrastructure already internally. For example, OJS and so. And because so many members organization use OJS, several years ago, Crossref and PKP began a collaboration to create a less technical method for OJS users to register metadata with us and help publishers and journals take advantage of Crossref services. And so to send us the metadata of your content, there are two steps. First, you'll need to enable DOI plugin, and then choose the content that you want DOIs to be assigned to, such as articles. Enter the prefix that was sent to you in your membership email, and then you choose the suffix button. The next step is to enable the Crossref specific plugin. Here you will enter the name and email of the depositor and the username and password provided to you by Crossref with your membership confirmation. And you can find the Crossref plugin from your dashboard by navigating to Tools, Import or Export, and then Crossref XML Export plugin. And this is also one way that you can contribute to the research nexus and continue to build relationships and enable data citations. Now I will pass over to Nahel to introduce the next speaker.
Okay, great. So sorry, the next speaker for this section will be Ahmed Mustafa, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, great. So Ahmed Mustafa is an academic publishing professional with wide expertise in scholarly publishing. He holds a bachelor's in chemistry and geology from Cairo University in Egypt, and is now the executive director of Andromeda Publishing and Academic Services in the UK. He first joined the leading open access publisher, Hindawi Publishing Corporation, from 2010 until 2019. Ahmed supports openness and integrity of research, as well as integration and collaboration between the different societies of the publishing community. He is a member of the Creative Commons Global Network and the Industry Partnership Committee of the International Society of Managing and Technical Editors. Please go ahead, Ahmed, and do feel free to turn on your camera if your internet connection permits, of course.
Thanks a lot, Nahil. Many thanks, Johansson. Hello, everybody. It's a glad to join you today in this webinar, one of the Community Development Series Forum for Open Research in MENA. So I am going to talk about one of the interesting initiative in the publishing community. Our community is very dynamic, had a lot of developments from time to time. And so we had to have something which provide us with some knowledge, some background updates, and so forth. So 4 pillars from our publishing community are in cooperation to provide us with this initiative, which is the Place. Place is the publishers' learning and the community exchange. It's a sort of online public forum that's created for organizations interested in adopting best practices in scholarly publishing. New scholarly publishers can access information from multiple agencies in one place. They can interact, ask questions of the experts, and join conversations with each other. The 4 pillars which are in cooperation for this initiative are COPE, Crossref, Douage, and OASBA. COPE is the first side. The initiation is something like a factory, providing a factory to cover 4 major sides in the publication process. COPE, the Committee on Publication Ethics, that aims to move the culture of publishing towards one where ethical practices become normal part of the culture itself. While Crossref, which the leading metadata organization, makes research objects easy to find, cite, link, assess, and reuse. The source side is the Douage Directory of Open Access Journal, which is a unique and extensive index of diverse open access journals from around the world. They are trying to ensuring the quality content is freely available online for everyone. And the last side is Open Access Scholarly Publishing Association, OASBA, which is a diverse community of organizations engaged in open scholarship with a mission to encourage open access, the predominant model of communication for scholarly outputs. So the initiative is something like providing an overview for the 4 sides of the factory of the industry. The first side is that side which standardizes and confirms the product's quality. If we are going to talk about a factory for producing a high quality product, so this is the first phase, and the second phase which gathers extensive and comprehensive data about this product for further future usage, which is represented by Crossref. And the third side, in which the products that meet market standards are highlighted and displayed in this phase, which is represented by Douage. And the 4th section and last section, which offers suggestions and the plans for the product's development, for interactions between the community members, or let's say the employees of the factory and so forth, which is represented by OASBA. So you can visit the website of the Place, and you can sign up for free. You can interact, ask questions, following the updates in the community. Feel free to interact, and feel free to let us know if you have any questions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. And now I would just also want to add that the place is also it's a platform that you can find trusted and accurate information as a publisher, and you can find solutions to your problems or challenges that you might be having internally or with your publishing framework or processes. You also get to gain a better understanding of publishing processes and standards, share experiences and best practices, and ask your own questions. As you can see, this slide shows like the different categories of topics in the place that you can toggle and find discussions happening, joining the discussions to maybe answer if you have like best practices or like ask questions that you might have. It is a place where publishers come together to find solutions for the challenges they commonly share or have, and also share insights among themselves here. So thank you very much. There's a link in the chat for how to learn more about the place and join and get together with the rest of the community. Thank you. Back to you, Nahil.
Great. So I think next up we have Ginny Hendrix's presentation, if I'm correct, Johansson.
Yes.
Sorry, there's just so many to get through, but they're all extremely interesting. So it's been great to have you all so far. Okay, so next up we have Ginny Hendrix. Since 2015, Ginny has been developing a community team at Crossref encompassing community engagement and communications, member experience, technical support, and metadata strategy. Before joining Crossref, she ran Ardent for a decade, where she consulted within scholarly communications for awareness and growth strategies, branding and launching online products, and building digital communities. In 2018, she founded the Metadata 2020 collaboration to advocate for richer, connected, reusable, and open metadata, and she helps guide several open infrastructure initiatives such as ROR and POSI. She recently co-founded Force 11's Upstream community blog for all things open research. So over to you, Ginny.
Thank you very much, Nahir. Can everybody see my screen? Is that all looking good? I will assume so, unless I hear otherwise. Thank you so much for having me. It's really great to be invited. And thanks to Abanda for putting together all of the content so far. This is our last segment, and then I hope we have some questions and discussion. We wanted to introduce and talk about the principles of open scholarly infrastructure, or POSI, as we call it for short. And these were actually developed in 2015 originally by Jeffrey Bilder, Jennifer Lynn, and Cameron Naylan. They were proposed, I should say, in 2015, and they were born from this idea that sometimes in academia, we start relying on a tool or a service or a data set, and we have no control over how it's maintained, and it could potentially be enclosed by its owners. And we were seeing that. And so these principles were designed to help the community to assess the different infrastructures and data sources that they work with, and to encourage those data sources to be more open and think about broad stakeholder governance, financial sustainability, and openness for the purposes of reusing. So if I just go through some of them, this is a slide that shows there are 3 sections in the POSI principles. They are governance, sustainability, and insurance. And I think a lot of people will think about governance quite well. That thinking has matured quite a lot. Sustainability, of course, financial sustainability, but how? What does it mean to be sustainable? It doesn't necessarily mean having guaranteed grants every year, but it could mean developing a sort of a form of income, not based on data, but based on services and value add. And I'll talk a little bit about how some organizations are working towards these goals, including mainly Crossref, actually. And then insurance really is about making sure that all of our materials, policies, of course, the data and the code are available, but also accessible so that anybody can, in the tech world, we would say fork the code, but you can fork the operations of Crossref. You can find out, staff handbooks, policies, and things like that. So the idea is that if a POSI committed organization goes away, the community can recreate it or parts of it if it wants to. So it's quite a vulnerable position to be in, but it's the right thing for science, really. So Crossref in 2020, our board agreed to adopt the principles for open scholarly infrastructure. And we embarked on a self-audit against the 16 principles. And this is actually, we updated it again at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. And we also have another one coming imminently in the next few weeks. But this shows the status. And you can see we're using a traffic light system. So we are, if we're green, we feel like we're meeting that principle quite well. If we're yellow, we're halfway there, and if we're red, we're not very well there. And the thing that stands out on this is that in 2020, we didn't feel that we were broadly stakeholder governed. In 2020, Crossref still had on its board predominantly publishers and predominantly larger publishers. So we've worked really hard on our governance with the support of that board, of course, to bring in smaller organizations. We have library publishers, we have presses, we have some universities. So it has broadened. We also added a funder. So Crossref is having funder members join these days to register their grants. So they're just normal members like everybody else, but we have a nominating committee. And it's really important to us to have broad representation on our board, and we want to turn that green and keep it green, because of course this is just a snapshot, but we want to almost annually assess ourselves against these and really make sure we're keeping to it. So even if it's green, let's not get complacent. I wonder if there's anything else on here I would highlight. One thing I think to highlight is the first one in sustainability. Time-limited funds should only be used for time-limited activities, and that seems to be the one that is most difficult for a lot of infrastructures to commit to. So it's fine to get grant funding, of course. That is always useful for startup phases or for special projects. But really, grant funding shouldn't be ideally used for long-term operations. So having a goal to create contingency funds, charging for additional added value services, but not for the data. So that's something to emphasize, I would say, in the sustainability goals. And Crossref is doing okay there. I can say that when we do our third imminent audit, that will turn green, because we have just saved up enough so that we'll have 12 months of operations. And what that means is that if Crossref hits a really, really rough economic patch, it could be a global economic crisis. It could be a crisis in the publishing world. It could be, it could be that we're asked to wind down Crossref, but we now have a fund that is protected to keep Crossref going for 12 months, even if we have no more income. So that's quite exciting. What else? Okay, I'll move on. Here are some of the other organizations that have signed up to the principles of open scholarly infrastructure. So I think the first few were Crossref, Dryad, and ROR, ROR, which you can see on the bottom right, which is an initiative, not an organization. So that is a different way as well of thinking about how to meet the POSI principles when you're sort of a collaboration with several organizations behind you. But it's a great example of open scholarly infrastructure, and one that has quite low overheads, because we didn't create a whole other organization with a whole structure with its own technology and its own staff. So Crossref, DataSite, and the California Digital Library, we put in-kind support to keep RAW going as a collaboration. And others on this list, one is notable, Liberate Science on the bottom left. That's a small startup, but they're the only one on this slide that is actually a commercial entity and not a non-profit. And I think that's worth highlighting as well, is to be a good infrastructure, you don't have to be a non-profit actually. And not all non-profits are open or commit to open data, open, transparent operations. So I would call out Liberate Science as a company that is trying to do, that has sort of a social conscience. They're really good. They're also shaking up what it means to publish as well. Who else to mention here? Yeah, I think there's a few more coming as well. Recently, in the last couple of weeks, we just updated the POSI principles. So there's version 1.1 out, which really just clears up some of the language. And I think a few organizations, some of the infrastructures that we definitely rely on we're waiting for that version 1.1 to then publish their own self-assessments. And it's a really nice group, actually. So we get together, our operations directors, our executive directors, our community directors or staff, even our support staff actually get together and share information, challenges, and opportunities about how it is running an open infrastructure. So one of the first things we did was do a sort of a brainstorm about the positive outcomes that the different adopting organizations have found. And one of the things was, you can see on the bottom there, to find a sort of community of like-minded initiatives. And what that means, at least for me at Crossref, is if an organization has self-audited against the POSI principles, and we're talking about a collaboration or a partnership or sharing data or just doing a series of webinars together, it already takes off the table questions like, will it be open? Things like that. So we already know that there's a level of trust, I would say, between the POSI organizations. We've also found that it made it really clear for especially some of the smaller, well, Crossref, I would say, is one of the larger one. So for us, it was a really strong public statement to commit to being much broader than publishers and much broader than our original purpose, and more open. So I think that was a really important thing that our board did, to endorse that true transparency, and it has made a difference in our collaborations. So people know that the board is behind Crossref being truly open. And then with some of the smaller organizations, it allowed them to clarify their message. It allowed them to clarify even their strategic decision making, which probably has the most post-it notes here on the top right there. It's helped, it's helped strategic planning. It's helped really focus on specific goals for sustainability. it's actually also been used in Crossref to inform our staff development goals. So we have about 45 staff now. So we've had to become a little bit more structured, you know, with different levels, although we try to not be too hierarchical. And it really helps us in, you know, if you're looking at a development plan for one of our engineers, to talk to them about the POSI principles, so that in their mind, their goals include always starting with the code open in an open GitLab repository, always making sure that there's broad community buy-in for whatever they're building. So it comes into our daily lives quite a lot. And of course, this is not just Crossref. This was about 10 different organizations at the time, including Open Citations, DataCite, Dryad, people like that. Europe PMC as well, the big part of this. And then some challenges. And I think this is really interesting because it's really hard it's keeping an organization like Crossref going. There's a lot of work that's involved to keep ourselves in check. And so here are some of the challenges. A lot of people might have different views of what an open scholarly infrastructure even is. So there's sometimes discussions around that and disagreements. Some initiatives are always going to rely on grant funding, so they feel like they're always going to be read on that score. And everybody tends to emphasize that it's not supposed to be a tick boxing exercise, but a statement that you're at least striving towards these goals. So it may be 10 years before you reach sustainability, but making the statement publicly that you plan to is really important. And then there's discussions as well around, like, well, how can the community challenge our commitments to these open principles? And you know, if we want to hold each other accountable, how do we do that? And I think people are still really working that out. But yeah, there's a good discussion between the adopters and the boards of the adopters as well. There's also people worrying about that there might be some missing principles, something around the people running these organizations, because that's often left out of these frameworks. Is actually you need a lot of really committed people and a lot of energy. And there's another comment here about something about open grant proposals. So it gets into, some people want more specifics from the principles, but maybe the examples from the different adopters are enough. And on the POSI website, which is openscholarlyinfrastructure.org, you can see all of the links to all of the organizations' self-assessments. So I think this might be my last slide. This is Crossref's situation at the moment. We are still reviewing our governance. I don't think we're not going to go green on broad community governance yet. We added a funder to the board, but then we lost them. So we need to think about how to codify the broadness of the board. We have an open call for expressions, which is great, and this year we got 80 or 90 expressions of interest. I think 50 of them were eligible, so being a voting member. And we have open contested slates as well, and every other member can vote. It's one member, one vote. So we have a lot of that structure in place, but it still depends on the nominating committee putting a good slate together, and then it depends on the membership to actually vote and look at, agree that it's important to have a breadth of representation on the board. I think I already mentioned we met just our 12-month reserve fund, which is fantastic. So if there are any disasters, we can operate on no income for 12 months. So hopefully that gives us all a bit of reassurance. We still want to publish more about our operations. We are we're working on a compensation plan for our staff, and that's going to be public soon. So we'll have what we call salary transparency, recruitment processes, how we are actually recruiting for diversity and things like that. We opened all of the references in Crossref, I think in 2022, which was a big deal. We used to let some members keep those references closed. And that was, because of our POSI commitments. It was then an easier decision to decide to make all of the metadata open. Most of anything new that we're building is open source. Our main system that registers DOIs is not open source, so we're not green on that point yet, but we're really working towards it, building a new system in the open. And we're trying to move all of our support to open as well. So at the moment, we get about 3,000 support tickets every month, and that is private one-to-one emails, like we use Zendesk. So no one else is seeing those support tickets, and we're going to try and encourage people to use our community forum as much as possible so members can help each other. And if we answer a question once, we can then refer to it for the future questions that are the same as well. And then, I guess I would just end on repeating, actually, that we do look at the POSI adopters as a community, and we are planning several closer alliances with some of the others. And I would call out DataCite and Core and Europe PMC specifically as partners, and DOAJ, actually. So we're working to have much closer alliances with those organizations, and they're supporting us too, which is great. So I hope I did okay for time there, Nahil. I think I've come to the end of my slides. So I would just say a big thank you, and here's some links where you can contact us.
You did great for time. So thank you guys all so much. Now we're going to move over to the discussion and the Q&A portion of the webinar. Please, as a reminder to all of our attendees, which there are many of you, which makes us so happy to see, please do remember to just, if you have any questions for our speakers, just to include it in the Q&A box so that you can be a part of this discussion. It's important for you guys to take advantage of these webinars and these events that we host, not just to retain and absorb knowledge being given to you, but also to ask the questions that you might not be able to ask, on a day-to-day that you're always curious about. So I want to start off with just one question. Whoever can, also for our speakers, whoever can turn on their cameras, please feel free and just unmute yourself so that we can get started. Sorry, I've got allergies, so excuse me if I'll be sniffling a little bit. But my first question is just sort of, you've all given us such a great wide and very detailed perspective on all of the different I don't want to call them products, but I guess all of the different initiatives that Crossref has launched. Can I challenge you to try to perhaps answer the base of what, or the foundation of what this webinar was about in just a few words? So to summarize, how does metadata make open research better? If you could summarize that just as like a quick bite-sized thing, for anyone who maybe absorbed all of that information and found it all very useful, but is still maybe struggling to put the pieces together. Also, this is a question for everyone, so please feel free to just jump in.
Great, Jeannie, you want to go?
Yeah, I think for me, this is a really exciting opportunity because I see lots of names in the attendee list that I don't know, and I would love to hear more about how this has been received, any comments and questions. But yeah, was the question about how all of these sort of initiatives are coming together? Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard, actually. the concept of the research nexus is probably the central thing for Crossref. It describes the vision where we're trying to get to, and it includes, metadata initiatives. It includes new technology like tracking retractions, for example, which is something we also recently announced, that we acquired the Retraction Watch database, and we're ingesting that into Crossref. So building out the research nexus. It also, that includes partnerships and community initiatives, and goals to make science more open, really, and fill in the missing parts. So that also includes making it possible for different parts of the world to participate in Crossref. And we have fee waiver programs, but we also need to have better fees. So that's something in 2024 we are looking at, is a whole kind of large scale review of our resourcing model. And I hope that in 2025 we'll have much simpler fees that enable anyone to join Crossref. So there's a lot of different initiatives that come under these headings of governance, metadata, relationships, metadata, and APIs and things like that. But it's hard to get into 1 hour everything that we're trying to work on. What do you think, Ubanta?
Yeah, I'm also thinking that I think one of the, or some of the aims of open research, or of researchers, or undertaking research, is also about reproducibility or discoverability of their work as well, and also observing in research integrity or ethical publications, for example, and also being able to be scrutinized or justified as good researchers, for example. And so metadata, or describing their work and showing the relationships, helps to achieve all these aims. So they make all of these much easier. They make reproducibility happen easily, because if you're practicing open research, you want your work to continue being used downstream. You want to be seen more, to be cited more, and all that. So I think that's how metadata comes in, and that's so metadata is central also to achieving the research nexus vision, because the relationships happen thanks to metadata, and the APIs make these different entities, organizations speak or talk to each other thanks to metadata. So I think that's one way that metadata is making open research better.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I know that was a challenging question. It's always much harder to summarize, so many different things into a few bite-sized words. So thank you for coming up to the challenge, or standing up to the challenge. I know we have some speakers who are kind of jumping in and out. I'm assuming that it's a internet problem. So we've lost Dr. Salwan. I actually wanted to ask him. Oh, hey, there he is. He's back. So just gonna give him a moment to connect. Dr. Salwan, I wanted to give you an opportunity to just kind of maybe add on to anything from your presentation. Oh, we've lost him again. All right, it's okay. I understand, our part of the world these days, electricity and internet hasn't been the best across the board. So it's okay. But I guess I'll just let him know. Dr. Salwan, you can just jump in whenever you feel like you have strong enough internet to do so. So my next question was more about the principles that you presented. I found them so interesting, and it was really nice to see kind of a clear set of guidelines and metrics that people can really quantify and use whenever they're trying to figure out whether or not they're aligning with these principles, and whether or not they're actually, putting, so to speak, money where their mouth is. They're really putting in the work required to be able to own up to the words they're using to describe their own entities or their own research. But I wanted to ask in terms of the actual development of the metrics, because this is something that's been talked about a lot recently, especially when we're talking about research from the global south and how metrics are, oftentimes, from it's a top-down approach and just sort of like a small group of people who decide what the metrics for certain things are and then let the rest of the world know. So did you come across any sort of challenges when trying to figure out which metrics were the most important for the principles, or which principles were like, sorry, maybe I'm not phrasing it right, but like which principles were the most important? How did you get to that kind of conclusion? What was the process like for actually setting up the principles? So sort of taking a step back before the principles were launched and just what the process of that was like.
Yeah, so it was really based on the experience of trying to create. It was based on two things: setting up open, maybe a persistent identifier system. So the creation of ORCID, actually, which Crossref was involved with, which Clarivate now called was involved with. There was the project Author ID. And at the time, nobody trusted Crossref to set up an author identifier because we didn't have universities and we didn't have authors looking after and really governing Crossref. So it was very clear that that should be a separate initiative and a separate organization. And it was born out of some of the challenges Crossref had in meeting the full breadth of the community and making sure it was truly accessible to all. So that's one way it was born from. So the experience of Crossref and then the experience of the community trying to create ORCID. And it was also because we were hearing from researchers that they would rely on something and then it would get acquired by Elsevier and close down. I shouldn't mention Elsevier. It could be acquired by anyone. So these things happen, and actually consistently happen. They happen all the time, still now. Only a couple of years ago, Microsoft had Microsoft Academic Graph, and they announced that we're closing it in 6 months. What they did do was open the data, which was incredible. So we saw almost like a race to recreate Microsoft Academic Graph. And I think OpenAlex has clearly really stepped into that. And they are also a signatory on the principles of open scholarly infrastructure. So they happen to be a non-profit, but it doesn't really matter. They are committed to these principles, and it's a really good source. So yeah, it was a little bit like fear, in needing like insurance. You need insurance if you're scared that something bad will happen. So that was part of the impetus. And then with the individual ones themselves, there are definitely more that we could include, and there are definitely some that people feel like that's just not applicable to us. We base it on membership type organizations, and some organizations just aren't that. They're just not set up as membership organizations, like Europe PMC, for example. They have long-term funding from 38 different funders around the world. And they are a product, essentially. They have a database, search form, they link preprints and grants. Actually, they register grants on behalf of Wellcome and stuff with Crossref. And I would also just, so slightly a different answer to your question. You mentioned metrics, and I thought that was really interesting because it's not supposed to be metrics, but it is, I guess, measurement. So I would like to know, like, from others, like, we think it's really important to measure ourselves against POSI, but do other people care? I would love to know. I'd love to hear from somebody that doesn't really care, just like, but don't focus on openness, just make sure that make sure the API works better, or something like that. And I also think it's a totally different question, but the reliance on metrics like impact factor and H index, this is totally not really Crossref's world, but I know that a lot of organizations, institutions are trying to figure out ways to get away from relying on citation as a measure of success. And very much from behind the scenes, Crossref is supporting those kinds of efforts. Yeah, which is separate really from this this topic, but thought I'd mention it.
I mean, I'm not someone who can answer that question that you posed of people who don't care, but I will say, just based on, I'm not an expert in metadata in any form or even in the Crossref world necessarily, but I will say that I think anyone who tries to argue not to care about open and to just focus on making infrastructure better misses the point, because it's a very cyclical thing in its own nature. You need openness to be able to improve infrastructure, and you need infrastructure to be able to improve openness. So I think they go hand in hand. And
yeah,
I understand your point about it not supposed to be a metric, but I do think it is important to have something tangible to be able to compare yourself to or measure yourself up to, just to make sure that, like I said, I think we live in a time of buzzwords, and we live in a time of people just kind of using these big words that can mean so many different things. Openness in its own right can mean so many different things. And just like a quick throwing form back in here, we recently released a glossary of words in Arabic that were created to, it's essentially a glossary of openness words, so words that relate to open access, open research, open infrastructures, all of these things. And the issue before was that we were always dealing with literal translations, which open in Arabic has so many different ways that it can be used, and it has never been correctly used in the past. So it's this idea of a word can mean so many different things to so many different people, and it's important to be able to measure it to something quantifiable, even if it's vague-ish, and even if people have their own interpretations of the metrics or the measurements, just to be able to actually, from an ethical perspective as well, just to be able to comfortably be able to say, my organization or my research does fall in line with, I suppose, I have worked hard to make sure that this is the case. So I value in it personally, and I know that word has kind of negative connotations, but I do see I do see the value.
I think your focus on words is brilliant. I love words, and I know the Arabic language is much richer than the English language, so we should probably start these words in Arabic and then try and translate them to English in future. But yeah, these are principles, which you're right, they are principles require some interpretation. They are not rules. They're not they're not binary, like yes or no. It requires some nuance there.
Absolutely.
I
want to see if anyone is willing to share a question with us from our attendees. You've all been sitting very quietly listening in on what we've been talking about, and we appreciate, we're probably very interesting ourselves, so I'm sure that's, they've been just too busy paying attention to the words. But I do want to give you one more chance to just share any questions with our speakers, and also give our speakers a chance to ask each other a question, or kind of bring up something that they found interesting in their own presentations, or something they wanted to elaborate on. This would be the time. I don't know if maybe, there's Q&A, there's a pop-up. Miguel Oliveira has offered in the Q&A some alternatives to traditional metrics, such as topfactor.org. So I will just, it's not really a question, but I will go ahead and share that in the chat for our attendees in case anyone wants to, sorry, there's a fly. In case anyone wants to have a look at that.
I would also, just to add to that, sorry, I would mention the Leiden ranking, which is developed by CWTS in the Netherlands. They have used Web of Science data, but they just recently announced they're going to move to using OpenAlex data, which is a really big deal. So from January 2024, they're going to be basing their ranking of universities on open metadata, open scholarly infrastructure. And, you know, I think we'll find some universities moving to that source away from the commercial sources, hopefully.
Great. And yeah, Johansson has just gone ahead and shared that also in the chat. So whoever wants to have a look at that, please feel free. I feel so horrible for Dr. Salwan. I can see him trying to jump in and out, and he must be so infuriated right now. I can only imagine. But I think at this stage, unless the speakers have anything else to add, we can wrap up the Crossref. Oh, another Q&A. There we go. From Abba Momani, any advice for new researchers? Is there support given to such researchers? So is there any advice from, I guess, the perspective of what we've been talking about within Crossref's initiatives? Is there any advice you would give to new researchers? Sorry.
Great. I would say we have our metadata is openly accessible. That is also one resource that might be useful for a career or like a new researcher. Yeah, they can make use of our metadata. It's accessible. It's open. They can use to find relevant resources like or references to articles or publications that might be useful in building their research. The other thing I think is also like joining our community forum and then like topics about the topics that can be relevant to the part of the research, and also the I don't think the place. Jenny, I think the place is mostly like for publishers, right? And not for researchers. But our community forum might have they'll get like the support from our team and the rest of the community. Maybe for the infrastructure that they're trying to use to publish their research, or for maybe other open infrastructure options that they might want to consider for the part of the research. Yes, but as well, I think even getting in touch directly for maybe further resources that we might share about helping with their research. Yeah. Maybe Jeannie, do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, I would just, I guess as a researcher starting out, you know, I think it's good to be just aware that these conversations are going on and not to necessarily take everything at face value. You know, deciding when you're ready to, well, there's things like, you know, make your data open in the course of your research. Use repositories like Dryad or your own institutional repository. So share your work, you know, start with preprints and get feedback from the community. So those are kind of open practices that researchers can look at. And then when it comes time to publish, if indeed you want to publish, then have a look at those venues and see if they are open, see if they are going to get DOIs, if they're going to add metadata, if they're going to link up references within Crossref, if they're going to add your ORCID ID. And there's a good resource called Think, Check, Submit, which is about just kind of gives some guidelines about deciding where to publish, what venues that you might want to consider.
Yeah. Absolutely. The same individual is asking a second question, Eba Momani. I hope I'm not butchering your name. But they're asking, does your community help with reviews? So I think Eba is very keen on learning how Crossref can support, early career researchers more broadly. So perhaps if we answer this question, and then Eba, if you have any other questions about it, you can always contact Ginny or Johansson directly and engage with their community to learn more. But please go ahead. Is there anything that Crossref does to support reviews?
Shall I answer that?
Yeah.
Yes, not directly for reviewers, but sources like pre-review and Publons. There are definitely more and more open ones. I think F1000 does reviews. Publishers that publish the reviews or have a policy of open review can register those reviews with DOIs in Crossref. So again, if the place you're publishing has those open practices, and if that's important to you, then you can ask them, will you add the reviewers' reports and link them up to my work? And that just adds, then, anyone reading your work also has that extra context around it. And yeah, so there's a lot of a part of our community that are adding review reports with their own distinct DOIs, but then linking them in the relationship metadata. So the metadata element would be is review of, and then the article record would say has review and link to that review. So through metadata, we're supporting it, yeah, but that's about it.
And that's just another example of how metadata can make open research better. Okay, great. So I think we're gonna wrap up the discussion portion of the event. I want to just give a quick thank you to all of our speakers. And apologies again to the speakers who weren't able to join us properly. I'm so sorry about the internet, and I hope it gets sorted out soon. But just to do some final slides before we release you all back into your worlds, if we can just move over to the next slide, please. So just as a reminder, we host these CDAs for our community, for a forum for open science in the Arab world. We partner with international and regional organizations. We try to do it every month. We are currently finalizing our 2024 program for all of our CDAs that are going to be happening next year. And it really is for your benefit. It's for us to, and it's for our benefit. It's for you to learn more from international and regional experts on open science as a researcher, as an institution, as, anyone who's interested in open science and research broadly. And it's also a way for us to understand what our community needs so that we can better support you. We have an upcoming CDA happening in December with DataCite. This CDA will be hosted in Arabic. And it's going to be talking about some identifiers for researchers again. So please, if you're interested, just scan the barcode or visit our website, forumforopen.org, where you can find out more about our CDAs. And if you're interested in the topic, once you go online and you have a look at our DataCite event, if you're interested in the topic but don't speak Arabic, we'll also be hosting basically an identical event in April that is going to be held in English. So you have both of those options. So please feel free to register for either. Next slide, please. And finally, before you all leave, we would love it if you could offer us some feedback by scanning this QR code or rewriting or copying this link, just to help us understand what you enjoyed about this event, what you thought we could improve on, what you want to see more of, topics that you want us to discuss, anything that can help us help you and help you help us, essentially. In the end of the day, this is a community-based initiative, and we wouldn't be able to do it without you all. Yeah. And again, we just want to say thank you to our speakers and our attendees for joining us. And we hope you have a wonderful day. So please feel free to click off. We're just going to leave this room open for just a few more minutes, just so that people can take the time to scan the QR code. Have a good day, everyone.